Okay, so leaving for a trip, right? There's that familiar feeling. Airports, the plane taking off.
Yeah, we all know that feeling.
Now, try picturing the exact opposite. Coming back, but from like hundreds of miles up in space?
Mm-hmm.
You might think, well, gravity just pulls you down. Simple. But we've got this amazing firsthand account today from an astronaut.
We do. It's really compelling stuff.
And it shows the Soyuz return. It's anything but gentle. It's pretty intense.
That's right. The source we're diving into is this personal story, super vivid details about re-entry, landing, the whole thing. It's not just facts and figures.
No, it's visceral. You feel it.
Exactly.
And that's what we want to do today, really get into this astronaut's journey, understand the challenges, the surprises, just how intense coming back from orbit really is.
Going beyond the technical stuff to the human experience.
Right. So let's start at the very beginning of heading home, leaving the space station. What jumped out at you there?
Well, that photo op they mentioned in the Russian segment right before they leave. Just, 6 people floating there, posing in front of the Soyuz hatch.
Yeah.
It's so normal. Almost.
But totally not normal circumstance.
Exactly. Human moment, extraordinary place.
And then the goodbyes. The astronaut talks about that feeling.
Right.
Once that hatch closes, that's it.
Yeah, the finality. Knowing you won't see those crewmates again, not like this. Leaving that shared experience behind.
It sounds really emotional.
Definitely. And that detail about Misha, the experienced cosmonaut.
Oh, yeah.
Turning back and just patting the wall of the station. Like saying goodbye to, to home almost.
Wow, a place that meant so much.
Yeah, the astronaut mentions this nostalgia kicking in even before they left, for this metal can floating in space.
It really shows how much the station becomes their world. Okay, so the hatch closes, journey begins, and the astronaut says straight up, the return, even more violent and uncomfortable than launching into space.
That really grabs you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We always focus on the launch, the fire, the power. But this suggests coming back is just as rough, maybe rougher. And the big danger, they explain, is the atmosphere itself.
Our atmosphere, the thing that keeps us alive down here?
Suddenly it's the enemy.
Why is that? Explain that a bit.
Well, think about the speed. You're hitting it at, 17,500 miles an hour?
That's insane speed.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the friction when you hit the air that fast, it's immense. Generates incredible heat. We're talking up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
3,000 degrees.
And it slams the brakes on hard. Huge deceleration pushes you into your seat with up to 4 Gs.
It's like the atmosphere is actively trying to stop you.
Right.
The astronaut even compares it to meteors burn up.
Right.
Or how they deliberately burn up trash from the ISS using the atmosphere.
It's a great comparison. Really drives home the risk. The air wants to destroy you, basically. And the Soyuz capsule, that heat shield, that's all that's keeping them safe.
So yeah, not a gentle glide. It's this whole complex 3.5-hour process. Lots of steps. Everything has to work perfectly.
Exactly right. The astronaut walks through the key parts. First, there's an engine burn.
To slow down.
Yeah, just enough to start falling out of orbit correctly.
Yeah.
And the angle they hit the atmosphere, the speed, it has to be so precise.
What happens if it's wrong? Sounds like tiny errors could be huge.
Catastrophic. Too steep, you could overheat, burn up, or the G-forces could be unsurvivable.
Okay.
Too shallow, you could literally skip off the atmosphere like a stone on water.
Whoa. And then come back in later, maybe worse.
Potentially, yeah. It's a very, very fine line.
So they're relying on layers of safety systems.
Right. The astronaut mentions them. The heat shield, obviously, then the parachutes deployed lower down.
Below 10 kilometers, I think they said.
Yeah, something like that. And then right at the very end, these soft landing rockets fired just before impact.
Soft landing rockets. Sounds optimistic.
Well, relatively soft.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of things need to go right. The astronaut keeps saying, we hope this works. We hope that deploys.
That phrase, we hope, after a year in space relying on this tech, it really tells you something.
It does. It highlights the uncertainty, the reliance on engineering that has to be flawless.
Okay, but before they even get to that fiery part, there's prep inside the capsule. Sergei's stowing cargo.
Right, the more mundane side, but still critical. Packing up personal stuff, science samples.
And the gorilla suit head.
Yes, that detail. A little bit of zero-G absurdity.
Gives you a glimpse of life up there, but also the serious stuff. Emergency gear.
Yeah, radio, compass, machete, cold weather stuff, just in case.
In case they land way off course. Siberia, maybe?
Exactly. You have to be ready to survive on your own for a while, if needed. It's a serious possibility.
And they also prep their bodies, right? For gravity again. That sounded tough.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. Your cardiovascular system gets, well, kind of lazy in space.
Lazy.
Well, the heart doesn't have to pump against gravity. Blood vessels aren't working as hard. So when gravity suddenly hits...
You can get dizzy, low blood pressure.
Exactly. Orthostatic intolerance, they call it. Your body has adapted so well to space, it struggles readapting to Earth initially.
Amazing how the body does that. So how do they fight it? Fluid loading.
Right. Basically drinking a lot beforehand to boost blood volume. Interesting how NASA and the Russians do it differently.
Yeah, NASA with broth and special drinks.
Asteroid, salt tablets.
And the Russians, more salt, less liquid.
Seems that way. Maybe different philosophies, maybe practicalities.
Sure.
Like the astronaut mentions, wearing a diaper plays a role in your choices.
Huh. Good point. Okay, then putting on the Sokol suit, the pressure suit, sounds awkward in the zero-G.
Yeah, much harder than on Earth. Nothing to brace against. And the astronaut has this moment putting it on.
What's that?
Reflecting on launch day. Remembering things like, fresh food, a shower, seeing family.
Things you take for granted.
Right. And how weirdly distant those memories felt after a year away. Time gets strange up there.
Yeah, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and vice versa. Okay, suits on. Now, squeezing 3 people into that tiny Soyuz descent module.
It sounds claustrophobic. The description is tight. Misha first, then the narrator, then Sergei.
And those custom seats again. You mentioned them for the G-forces.
Absolutely vital. Because you're going from, 17,500 miles per hour?
To zero.
To zero in a very short time. The forces are brutal. Those liners cradle you.
Even just strapping in sounds like a challenge. 5-point harness in zero-G.
Everything's harder without gravity holding you down. Which is ironic because gravity is about to come back with a vengeance.
Okay, so they're strapped in. Then detachment from the ISS. How does that happen?
Surprisingly gentle at first. Springs just kind of nudge them away.
Quickly, that's it?
Initially, yeah. Then they fire small thrusters on the Soyuz to move further away. Create some distance.
Okay, and then waiting.
Yeah, what the astronaut calls the quiet before the storm.
Sounds tense.
Well, uncomfortable mostly.
Yeah.
Cramped, hot, just the hum of a fan. The astronaut just longed for silence after the constant noise of the station.
And pure exhaustion, right? It finally hits them.
Totally. The adrenaline wears off. The year in space catches up. All 3 of them actually dozed off for a bit.
Wow. Slept through the start of re-entry prep.
Just for a short while. Then the call comes for the deorbit burn.
Snap awake time.
Instantly alert. This is critical. It's a 4.5-minute engine firing. Perfectly timed, perfectly executed.
And that slows them down.
How much?
Only about 300 miles per hour. It doesn't sound like much compared to orbital speed.
No.
But it's just enough to change their trajectory so they start falling towards the atmosphere.
Okay. And then it's just falling.
About 25 minutes of free fall before they hit the top layer of air.
And then things get really serious. Module separation.
Yeah, a moment the astronaut described with real tension, holding their breath.
Why so tense?
It's done with explosive bolts. And there's the history, that 1971 Soyuz accident.
Oh, right. Depressurization.
Exactly. It happened during separation. So that memory hangs there. You see debris flying past the windows.
Stark reminder. But they have the pressure suits.
Right. A crucial backup just in case.
Okay, separation complete.
Yep.
And then gravity. It comes back. Gradually at first, then bam. Everything feels incredibly heavy. Your arms, your head.
Hard to even breathe.
Yeah, the G-forces build up, pressing on your chest. Breathing gets tougher and tougher.
And outside.
Fire. The capsule heats up. You can see the heat shield outside the window doing its job, glowing, pieces burning off. It's protecting them, but it's a visual of that intense heat.
Just this tiny capsule fighting through the atmosphere.
Incredible. And then the wind noise starts picking up outside.
Signaling the next big step.
Parachutes. This whole phase is automated. They're just watching one light.
Just one indicator light for the parachute?
That's the focus. Did it deploy?
Hmm.
Because everything rides on that chute.
And the astronaut mentions where it was made. An older facility.
Yeah, Soviet-era standards, they say.
Yeah.
After a year baking in space, you're really trusting that single piece of fabric and cord.
Wow. The stakes couldn't be higher. Descending at the speed of sound under a parachute.
Wild concept. And the ride undershoot, apparently it's nuts.
Yeah, the analogies are something else. Train crash. Car crash.
Falling off a bike while on fire. Going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Also while on fire.
He really didn't enjoy it then.
Well, that's the weird thing. Despite those descriptions, the astronaut says they did enjoy it. Like a Carnival ride on steroids.
Seriously, how?
Maybe just the sheer relief. Or that astronaut mindset. They even tell that story about the checklist floating around.
Oh, yeah, the left-handed Super Bowl catch.
Right, while tumbling and spinning shows how disorienting it was, but also that they could still function.
So is it really that chaotic, or does it just feel that way?
A lot of it is apparently the inner ear, the vestibular system, freaking out.
Okay. After being in zero-G for so long.
Exactly. It overreacts to the sudden motion, so your perception is maybe even wilder than the reality.
Makes sense. Then after that crazy ride, things calm down.
Surprisingly, yeah. A period of relative calm hanging under the main parachute. They mentioned seeing photos later the Soyuz against the clouds. Quite peaceful, actually.
Huh. Big contrast.
Then the heat shield is jettisoned. Suddenly, sunlight floods in.
Must be intense after the darkness or the glow of re-entry.
Yeah. And you hear the rescue teams on the radio, counting down the altitude, getting closer.
Okay, final moments. What happens just before landing?
Warning comes. Open your mouths.
Why?
You don't bite your tongue on impact. Simple but important.
Good tip. And then those soft landing rockets fire.
Right before touchdown. But the impact is still hard. Likened to another car accident.
Jeez. Just keeps hitting them. But they landed upright this time.
Yeah, which is apparently unusual. Meant they had to wait a bit longer inside for the rescue crews to get the hatch open.
And then the hatch opens. Back on Earth.
That moment. The smell of air, rich, earthy air, and the cold. Such a contrast to the capsule.
Must be overwhelming.
Totally. And the astronauts surprised they could even move despite feeling crushed by gravity. Felt heavier after shorter flights, interestingly.
Adaptation, maybe? And seeing all the people?
Yeah, after months of just two other faces. Suddenly, dozens of people. Rescue teams, space agency folks.
And the astronaut gives a fist pump.
Yep. And mentions that smell again, charged Soyuz, but also honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle. Out there on the Kazakh steppe.
Apparently.
Yeah.
A surprisingly sweet smell mixed with the re-entry aftermath. Fantastic detail.
It really is. And they just want to walk away.
Yeah. The Russian rescue protocol involves carrying them, but the instinct is just to stand up and walk. Relief, accomplishment.
You see familiar faces too, right? Flight surgeon, chief astronaut.
Yeah. And Russian space officials, the whole rescue force. Misha talking to the team, probably thinking of his father, who is also a cosmonaut.
Wow. Full circle. And then the call home.
That satellite phone call to Houston, to Miko at Mission Control.
And the description of the landing.
Huh. Fucking medieval, but effective.
Perfect. Sums it up.
It really does. Intense, kind of brutal, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And then saying, after all that, I think I'm ready to work on Mars.
Incredible. After that ordeal, they're ready for the next giant leap.
Shows the resilience, right, what they've gained.
Yeah.
And finally being able to say, I'll see you soon, and mean it, after a year.
Yeah, that hits home.
Immense.
So, looking back at this whole deep dive, the big takeaway really is coming home from space. It's not just falling down. It's this incredibly intense, complex journey.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Physically demanding, emotionally draining, technologically astounding, all at once. You've got the physics, the heat, the G-forces.
The sheer number of things that happen.
Right. The heat shield, the parachutes, the rockets.
Yeah.
And layered on top is the human side. Saying goodbye, the fear, the relief, reconnecting.
It's truly remarkable, and it leaves you with that thought, doesn't it? If someone can go through that and immediately think about Mars, it really speaks to human adaptability, that drive to explore. Makes you think, doesn't it? After we face our own challenges, push our own limits, what might we